Great morning. You're listening to the podcast, She Who Believes, and I am your host, Vivian Bell, and I am indeed She Who Believes. So the title of today's podcast is In the Fog, Keeping Your Vision Clear When You Can't See. Now, so this title, and I will tell you guys that I am excited about being here at the podcast because I tell you that every week, but I sincerely mean it. But I'm going to be real with y'all. This title came in the midst of a place of literally pressing to remain excited. Not about the podcast, not about life. Like it's not, I'm not excited about what God is doing and I don't see those things. But we're going to have a transparent moment because there are times that you can be in the height of something and you are pressing. And that's going to come, like those seasons are going to come in your life because, I'll just say it like this. I often share with you guys what my children tell me because I do have this thing that I say that if as a parent, your kids have not equally taught you as much as you've taught them, then you are not doing this parenting thing right. And so my son has this thing that he listened to from it was Denzel Washington who said it after an incident that took place like openly in media. I guess it was about a year ago, and I won't say any particular names, but I will just say that Denzel Washington said something and it stuck with my son. And he said, you have to always be careful that at the height of your career, at the height of, or that place in which you literally are seeing the manifestation of the promises that God has promised you, that things are going to challenge you, and the enemy is going to always show up to try to steal that from you, and he'll do it by trying to steal your integrity and your reputation. And so he says you always just have to remember to stay prayed up, to like just pray and to keep yourself, remain vigilant and be aware of what's happening, right? So what does that have to do with the fog, and what does that have to, like, how do all these things tie together? Glad you asked. I'm gonna help you out. So yesterday morning, I was driving my son to an appointment, and it was literally extremely foggy. Like literally the fog was crazy. So much so that my son commented on the fog. He said, he talked about, man, he says, this fog is really thick, right? And I was like, yeah, it is. And it was weird because it was one of those moments that I knew was going to be, I don't know, God was going to do what he does. But I was just in this place. I couldn't really respond. I was listening. I was intently in this place, just listening, both physically and spiritually. And so anyways, later God said to me, and he gave me this title. He said, In the Fog. And he said to me, that is where you are in the fog. The fog impairs your vision. It doesn't allow you to see far ahead. Just enough is all you can see. And so that can sound like, oh, okay, this is where I am. Like, okay, this is where I am. Like, but no, he was saying this is where you are physically. And then this is where you are spiritually and in your life, right? In this place, in this season, he says the fog impairs your vision. Doesn't mean it takes your vision. It doesn't steal your vision. It doesn't stop your vision. It just can feel like, and notice I said feel like, because I think it's important that we acknowledge when we are feeling something and what's actually true. So it literally can feel like you are being slowed down, right? So recently I talked about the pause on social media, and I think it was in one of my, I have several groups, right? I have Intercessors United. I have ACE, which is a group that I lead for a church. But God was talking to me about the pause and how he was the master of the pause. I think I did a podcast too about it. And so anyways, there are times where God will pause you, or you feel like, oh my goodness, another pause. But he's really lining you up. The pauses are necessary because God has steps ordered for us, right? He has people aligned in certain areas. He has places we need to be, and we can't arrive at those places too late, and we can't arrive at them too early, because if we get there too early, we're going to miss that moment that you ever just knew you had a moment, and that moment needed to happen and show up, and like it was significant, and it was going to be something that changed things, right? So you got to have that moment. So there's strategy involved in it, right? So the fog impairs your vision, or it feels like it's slowing you down. And it may be slowing you down. He said, yet the fog doesn't change the destination nor the end goal. Now think about that. If you're driving from one place to the other, you got to go to work, you have an appointment like we did, whatever it is, you still need to get where you need to get regardless of this fog, right? So what does the fog teach you? Lord, I thank you. So what does the fog do for you? You're thinking, well, you're right, I got to get there, and I don't really need to be slowed down, right? So we got to be careful not to get in our heads, whether it's driving on the road or driving forward into our destinies. Like, we can't get to a place where we believe that this fog has power, right? Remember, I said it appears to impair your vision, right? It seems like it's slowing you down. But the reality is, again, your destination is still your destination, and the end goal is still the end goal. The fog can't change that. So the Lord went on to say, the fog can't stop my word, my promises, or anything else. It doesn't take away my presence. It actually requires you to trust my presence, to trust me even more. So just stay focused in the fog. So remember, I said to you, Lord, I thank you. When I said that I was in a place where I knew it was going to be a moment, right? I was listening physically and spiritually. So we have to keep our ears keen. So check this out, right? If you ask a person who's blind or whose vision is a little bit impaired, they will most likely tell you that they just have to, that their other senses just had to step it up, right? So they had to be a little bit more intent with utilizing other senses. And it's something that happens automatically. Like a blind person who, whether they could see before or couldn't see, never saw, and they have to maneuver around and get around, they have to count on their other senses, right? So as I'm talking to you now, I'm recalling one of our assistant pastors was telling me about an older gentleman and his wife that they were blessed to be able to take care of and, shepherd their affairs on earth while they both were still here. And he told me about how, Lord, I thank you. He told me about how he knew that the person's vision was, somewhat impaired because he was up there in age, and he had known this person since he was a child. And he talked about how he thought that the gentleman could see way better than he could because the gentleman got around really well. He could get in and out of a townhome that him and his wife lived in. He can get on the elevator. He could get down to the car for him to pick him up. He can do all of these things until it was time for them to move them to a different location. What he discovered is that this man had memorized how many steps from the bed to the dresser, from the dresser to the bathroom, from the bathroom back to the closet, from the closet to the front door, from the front door to the elevator. And he memorized so well the button that takes him to the bottom floor, and the one that would take him to the dining room, and the one that would take him wherever he needed to go. He didn't need to actually see the numbers in the elevator to get to the destination. Oh, Lord, I bless you. He didn't have to see it clearly, right? He could see like right in his face, like literally hand in face, he could see it. But because his other senses, his memory, hallelujah, his touch, he didn't lose it. He was able to maneuver and get to his destination because he could remember those things. Right now, you've got to remember the word that God has given you, the promises that he's made to you, and everything else. So God titled my everything else this and that, right? He did that about a week and a half ago. I shared with you guys how God has said to me that I am not the God of this or that. I am the God of this and that. So basically it was like, hey, you don't have to choose this, or you don't have to give up this in order to get that. But that I am the God of this and that. I'm not limited. I'm limitless. I am not just a resource. I am the source of everything. So I am the God of this and that, right? So he was showing me and reminding me, and the thing that was so crazy is that he sent this word through someone who didn't even know about my this and that experience with God. And she said, God is taking care of this and that for you. She goes, and I'm so excited about what God has said to me for me to share with you that she's like, I could feel the Holy Spirit still now, even after praying to God for you, that I'm the God of this and that. But he also told me, he says, I'm the God of this and that and some more, right? So we've got to remember what God said, even when we can't see his hands moving. One of our most amazing worship leaders, Tim George, he sings this song, and it's not his song, and he don't have the rights to it, but there's a way that he sings this song. There's a song, and the words are like, even when I don't see it, I know you're still working. Even when I can't feel it, I know you're working, right? And so we gotta know what's working even when we can't see it. So God said to me this. He said, stay focused in the fog. In the fog, you will get nervous and start speaking about what it looks like, or be tempted to speak about what it looks like. Or you can keep on driving, knowing that soon the fog will clear. Your path will be straight, and you'll realize that it was never as bad as it seems. Because again, the destination never changed, and God has always been with you, and he will always keep his word. So, even if you have to slow down, keep driving. You've listened to the podcast, She Who Believes, and I am your host, Vivian Bell, and I am indeed she who believes. God bless you, and may you operate in clarity of vision even when you're in the fog.